And this was a term that I learned from Tiffany Ellie Shea. Um, and this was about her reflection when it came to like being broke and her story. And so I was listening to a podcast with her, and she talked about how she calls it post traumatic broke syndrome. And what that is that maybe when you've been in survival mode or you've been broke before, and then all of a sudden your financial situation changes, doesn't have to be dramatic, but then it's something that's like always in back of your mind that you may have post traumatic broke syndrome. And so she goes on to tell a story how she saved up like $1 million and she would keep it in her savings account. And this resonated with me so much because I've been at that place where I didn't have much money to having more money, and then basically doing the same thing she did is I would keep it in a checkings account and wouldn't like do anything, just keep it there. And she said that she kept $1 million in there, and then it was only like a while, like a little while down the line, and she realized that, oh my God, like I could have just had $60,000 in there, basically a year's worth of emergency fund. And then that $940,000 could have been put to work. And she could have like basically been collecting interest in investments and all that stuff and making like $100,000 a year or whatever. And I remember hearing that and I'm like, I never thought of it that way. And the thing about it is it's like when you've lived in survival mode, sometimes you don't realize it, but you start to pick up these habits. Like you start to pick up these like habits of when you were broke, and then you bring it into your present situation. You bring it in to the situation where um that may be in a better situation, but it's like you just can't help it. And I found that over the years it's like I've experienced having a lot of money and having little, basically. And I've been in those places where, how do you say it, like you just been like I've been in the places too where it's like you build this like wall, right? Because you've been in this broke post you like you build in you've been in this broke place that then you start to be in survival mode, you start to be in this hustle mode. You start to be in a place where like you basically don't want to reward yourself for anything. So you're like, nah, I am not like I am absolutely not taking a break, or I'm not going to do this certain thing because like if I become broke again, like there's that fear back of your mind. Like no one's gonna be there to help me. And I feel like I had that mindset for a while until there was a coach that called me out on it. And they were like, no, like you have to have some enjoyment or pleasure in your life. Da, 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 da. And at first I didn't understand it. But then when I started to do it, I feel like it was starting to become like a release. And it just showed me like it's just not realistic, right? It's just not it's just not realistic to just work and work and work and then not basically have basically any like it's not realistic to just work and work and work and then not have anything fun to do, basically. um right, it's just not realistic. And I live in a world sometimes where I just want to work and work and work and then not reward myself. And then I have to like pull myself back and be like, hey, this is not realistic, because that's how burnout happens. A lot of time when you see people burned out, it's because they're not taking time to do things they enjoy, and they're just like hitting it hard. And that's something I had to learn, where it's like it's important to have breaks even if it's throughout the week, so that way you don't plummet and you don't lose it on someone or whatever it may be. And basically, going back to the post traumatic broke syndrome, it's like I've had times where I would tell myself, oh, I can't ever let myself get back to zero. So then there's that constant grind that you want to do because you're like, I can't get back to zero. So I'm going to keep on working and I'm going to do what I got to do. So for me, absolutely think it started from young. Um, and it started from young because unfortunately people that took care of me failed me. And I had to go into survival mode real quick. right? I had to learn how to take care of myself real quick, go from like part time and then figure out, okay, like how am I gonna like get this full time income to pay my rent and be able to even survive? So I had to learn all those stuff. I had to learn how to be resourceful. I had to learn how to figure things out, and not depend on anyone. Like where you'll see people usually have that support, I didn't have that. Um, and unfortunately, this kind of carried into like my business, and I believe, a lot of the things that happened. Let's stay on topic, Tyler, and listen to the topic. So a lot of things that happen is that when you're um in a business, a lot of your insecurities that you have, like people don't realize that like it kind of like pulls into different areas. So a lot of I found out when I was in my business and I'll be building my business, there'll be points where every time the end of the year came, I would go back to zero every time. So I build it back up and I'll always go back to zero. And then each time, you know what's different is each time I would always accept it. And this is to remind you guys, is like when things are happening in your life, that's your sign not to accept it. Like it may be, hey, Everett. So the thing is that your circumstances may be happening around you, right? That may not be ideal to what you want happening. I don't know what it is, so no. Um, so it may be some stuff in your life may be happening that is not related to what you want for your life. And the thing you have to remind yourself is that your current circumstances is not actually like it doesn't define your future. It's not defining who you are. And I think a lot of times is that we can get so caught up with our current circumstances that we don't even move forward. And so what happened is I would always accept it, and you don't have to accept it either. So then there was one year, like by the third year, I was like, okay, so this is becoming a pattern where I'm always going back to zero. And there's probably a little bit of like, there's probably a little bit of scarcity in there where I had to work on. And I knew it was something spiritual, but I was like, finally, I was like, you know what? I'm no longer accepting this. I'm like, this year, I'm going to end this year not at zero. I was like, And I wasn't accepting it. And the difference that I did was I was like, okay, what can I do to like fight this? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use information. So I started reading books on finances, and then I started listening to podcasts like Friends Who Invest. One of the first book I read about finances was Automatic Millionaire by David Bach, and this was highly recommended in Reddit. So that's kind of like how I got onto this. Honestly, and before then, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, I read a lot of self-development books, but I would have never thought, okay, it would have never come to my mind to like say, oh, let me read a book about money. Right? Because I always just knew, like I've had in the past where I learned about from Dave Ramsey, and I got out of that way. But I think there was a part of me that kind of like felt like I knew what I was doing, but also like I didn't take into account like other stuff I've been through. So I was like, you know what, I want to really fight against this mindset. So I started reading that book. And you know what's funny is the book started with a story of a couple who both made $50,000 a year. And then how they like basically retired with millions of dollars. And I remember I almost stopped driving when I heard it. Like I literally almost stopped driving 'cause I was like, what? Because I always believed that you had to make a lot of money in order to like move forward. Like you needed to be, that's just the world I was in, guys. I was like, oh, you have to be saving like $1,000 a month and $2,000 a month to like see things going. And I always thought like, oh, it wasn't worth it to save $5 a month. Like, what are you talking about? But it was only when I went through it where I saw how powerful it was. But anyways, so when I heard that story, it kind of inspired me because it showed me that you could have little and save, and you could have a lot and not save, and vice versa. And what inspired me is he talked about paying yourself first. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. So he talked about paying yourself first. Basically, what you do is you'll save first, and then all the other bills will come after. So it's obviously anti-budgeting because you're saving first because he doesn't believe budgets work, and you're basically saving first. So in my case, I didn't even realize this, but I started doing like very low, like maybe 1% of my paycheck, and I started very small, and I told my work basically to just save a percentage of that. Like just save it, and then so basically by the time my paycheck comes, it goes into a different account. And what I did to make it really hard for myself is I actually opened an account where basically I have no connections to it. Like I don't even know the password to it unless I go on like a physical computer or something. Like I'm not able to access access that account. And basically it's to the point too, like if I took out money from it, I think it would be like 35 cents. So anyways, the point is like it's not easily accessible. And I have to log into a different account. Like I don't access it through my phone. And the story I could tell you about that is like one time I went to a conference. And remember I told you I was saving little, like it wasn't anything crazy. And I went to a conference and it was out of town. And I had like I guess I had run out of money, like because you have to pay for everything. And I ran out of money. And I only had maybe like a couple $100 in the savings. And I think what opened my eyes to this is I was actually able to go to the account, even though it was small. Like I wish I could tell you there was thousands of dollars in there. There wasn't. And I remember I took out $100 out of there. And I was like, oh my God, this is what it's about. Like something just clicked. It just clicked. And I was like, this is what this is about. Like, this is what they've been talking about is like just starting small. Because I think a lot of us dismiss it. Like when we when people say, oh, start small, we kind of dismiss it because we're like, what is $5 every 2 weeks gonna do? But you don't realize it, right? Because there may not be an emergency for the next 3 months or the next 6 months. So if you're doing $10 a month in the next 6 months, that's $60. And then you may get motivated, right? Because the more you see, like you'll just get motivated. And that's what happened is when I got to like pick into my savings, motivation. Motivation. When I saw I was like, oh shoot. So then what happened is so basically David Bach in his book, he basically talks about like there's different levels. So like you would save like I wish I could find it. So like basically it was like, you save like 5% if you want to get started, and then 10% would be like an ideal stage, and then like 15 to 20% was like, if you want to be like seriously rich, like because you'd be saving like 20% of your paycheck, like before the tax man takes out everything. So you would be saving like depending, right, $800,000 a month. I honestly didn't know there was levels until I met him. And then now what I do is I actually adjust. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Oh, fine, 10%. Let me see this. I can't find it right now. But now I see that you can actually adjust your percentage. So that's what I do now. I actually adjust the percentages. Um, and so every so often, so I don't get comfortable, I will increase the number. But now I distribute it in different funds. And I feel so much better. If you guys are not doing this, please do this. And so what I do is I have a business fund. So I'm very a big believer in investing in um my business endeavors. So I have a whole investment fund. So I build up a business savings account. So basically if anytime I want to invest in something, I could just dip into that. And then I did like a car maintenance fund and then like a new car fund. Like I went all out with it. So I'm probably saving more than I'm just regularly saving, if that makes sense. It's probably at 10%, but I would like to get more than that. But I'm just sharing this because from a person who has come from post-traumatic growth syndrome, um, not only do you have to work on it, but you have to find ways to soothe those parts of you because you can't live like that. It's like you're living in survival mode and you don't really need to. And I found that when I start saving like that, um, it just kind of changes my mindset and it reminds me, oh, Nikia, like it's okay, you're not at zero, you're fine. Like, so what I do, I actually do little things. If you haven't read Are You a Badass? Like the Money Edition by Jen Sincero, is I started like even leaving money around the house. So like I'll even leave in my purse. Like that's the number one thing. Because then every time I open my purse, I'll see like a $5 bill or a $10 bill. And then there's something in your mind that's like, oh, you're in abundance. You're in abundance. Right? So it's about reminding yourself in your abundance. You're not in a scarcity mindset. Because when you move in a scarcity mindset, I find you make different decisions. And hey, to the people who are watching, thank you for watching. Feel free to say hi. How are you? Where you're from. But yeah, I find out when you're in a scarcity mindset, you're gonna make different decisions than when you are in abundance mindset. And so what I mean by that is like when you're in a scarcity, like your decision will be different. Like what you choose to invest in, you may miss like certain opportunities because you're like, oh, I don't want to spend it because I don't want to get to zero. But sometimes you're far away from zero. Or when you're in that scarcity mindset, um, like you may not treat yourself. Like you may not do these small things. Like you may not even do the small things. You may just stay in the house. You may isolate yourself because you're like, well, you're telling yourself, oh, I don't have no money. I actually stopped saying that type of words. Like some of you guys have to stop telling yourself these stories. You have to stop saying certain lines like, oh, I don't have the money. Like if you're gonna say that, it's like I don't have it yet, but I'm saving for it. Like just like redoing giving yourself like positive reinforcement. And know it sounds woo woo, but it's like we spend so much time telling ourselves negative stuff when it comes to money, that we start believing it and then we start producing evidence for those negative thoughts. So why not try to do opposite even if it feels weird, like start giving yourself positive reinforcement, right? And so what I tend to do sometimes is like maybe like every paycheck, I will just go in my account, my savings account, and just look and say like, look how I'm building in abundance. And then sometimes I would even go further, and on top of what I'm saving, that's automatically being saved, I would be like, let me make it even. And I'll send like an extra $35 or $40, right? Because the reality is that if you have money left over, you don't need that money sitting down in your checking account. Send it to your savings account. And then what I'm trying to do right now, since I'm building up my digital assets, remember I told you about my business income, is I purposely like I try not to be in that scarcity mindset, and I'm like, okay, if I see something that's gonna help me, I'll pay for it. Like I'm ready to pay for it. Another thing I started doing is going to events. Like there's a time where I would just isolate, and I'm like, no, we're in abundance mindset, so we're going to continue to pour into myself because I want to get to a certain point. Another thing I did is I started reading this book. It's called every time I forget what it is. Oh Lord, it's called it's from the Secret author. Hold on, Secret. Let me find that Secret author. Um, Millionaire. So she came up with a new book, and let me find it. Let me find it. So she came up with a new book. I'm gonna show you. I think it's called The Secret to Riches. Her name is Rhonda Byrne. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Rhonda Byrne. Her name is Rhonda Byrne. Hold on. Okay, Rhonda Byrne. Okay, so yeah, her name is Rhonda Byrne, and she came out with a millionaire book called Countdown to Riches. That's what it's called. Let me show you it. Um, iPad. This book right here. Do you see it? Countdown to Riches. Do you see it? It's a Countdown to Riches. Okay. Oh, Taylor, you're still watching. So I started reading that book, and I haven't finished it to be honest. But what she makes you do in that book, it's so good. Is she's basically like rewiring the way you feel about money. So one of the tasks that really stuck with me is she talks about like every time you spend money, what you would do is yeah, so every time you spend money, you would reinforce yourself and tell yourself, oh, I received that money. So if you spent $60, I don't know, and you went to a bookstore, you'll tell yourself, thank you, I just received that $60. And she talks about like you can envision it like maybe there's different ways you envision it. So maybe you'll envision it by like imagining someone giving it to you from a cash register, or you taking it out from an account like a bank account like an ATM. Usually when I envision, I just envision someone like giving me the cash in my hands. So every time I spend money, as I remember, but the more you do, you start to remember it more and more. Is I'll tell myself like especially in times when I get anxiety when it comes to money, I will spend the money and I'll be like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that $60. I just received $60. Another thing I do, and I learned this from Your Badass Money, is like every time I'm paying bills and it feels like a drag, because you know that can suck. Is I'll tell myself, well, I'm very thankful that I even had the money to spend it. Like there could be a scenario that you don't even have that money to spend on your bills. Like a lot of times, people call themselves broke, and they're not necessarily. It's like you're not really broke if you're spending. Like, listen, if you're saving and you're saving and you are able to pay your bills, like I don't consider that broke. I know people want money left over, but it's a whole different ball game when you making like when you're getting paid or you're making money and then you don't have enough and then you're in a negative. Whole different world. Whole different level you don't want to be in. And so basically what those things teach you, right? Like Rhonda Byrne and like, Countdown to Riches, all that stuff. It's just showing you like, okay, like every time you're spending money, it's not completely a loss. Like you're trying to reverse that mindset of, oh, I'm losing money. Like, and you're reversing that mindset and saying, no, I'm gaining it back. Like I'm gonna get paid back with it, like whether I want to or not. Um, So yeah, so on top of that, I started learning about savings, and if you go on Reddit, they have a whole wiki. Like if you go on personal finance and stuff, they have a whole wiki about it. So basically, what I'm trying to show you guys, like what I'm trying to show you, is a pattern of like. So that was my anxiety was around money. I knew that I was in survival mode and I was stuck in this post-traumatic broke traumatic syndrome because of stuff I've been through. So then I started fighting back. Basically, I started basically putting on armor and fighting back against that weakness when it came to money. And this is why I'm sharing all these experiences because I had to fight back. I had to learn to fight back and not just accept it. There's some things that you're gonna go through in your life, and you have to learn how to fight back with this. So whether that's listening to something like this, or it's listening to a book, or reading a book, or listening to a podcast about the very topic. So if you're in depression, or if you're stressed out, like whatever it is, you're gonna read about that very topic. Everything you can know about that topic, so you can fight against your mindset around that topic. And a lot of us don't do that. We accept it, but the goal is to show you that you don't have to accept that what you're seeing right now or what your mind is telling, the story that your mind is telling you. You could always change the story that you're telling yourself. You're never stuck in it as much as your mind tells you that. And there's times I feel like that, but it's never true. You're never stuck. And thanks for the hearts. Um, so the part that I'm realizing now, like since going through all these things and still growing, is sometimes savings can be one of the best things you do. It can give you that peace of mind, and there's something about it, it hits. Even if it's a small amount, it hits. Like there's a part of you that feels in your safe space, and your goal is to get in your safe space and not be in a scarcity mindset. You ever met people where they're always in a scarcity mindset, like they're afraid that you're gonna compete against them, they're afraid that like you're gonna take over their audience, like just different ways, like oh they're afraid that like you're gonna sorry that you're gonna be better than them, like it's exhausting being around people like that. Like people don't want to be around people who are in scarcity. Like once you get to know yourself and you get to be in your you get to allow yourself to be in a safe space, you will be a real better a way better human being, especially around people, not only to yourself but around people. um and for me, someone wanted to know if I was single for some reason. Yes, as a single woman, I find there's a lot of pressure around it. So there's this story that's like, oh, I have to make sure I'm okay. I have to make sure that I never go back. I have to make sure I never need anybody like when it comes to finances because no one's gonna come and save me. And there's a pressure for you to overwork. Um, and it can make you be scared to really enjoy life, right? Or enjoy your money, enjoy where you are, no matter where you are, like whether it's a little or a lot. It can make you feel nervous to even enjoy it, and then you get stuck in just worrying over and over again, all like just all the time, just overthinking everything. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that, right? And so I'm learning that my goal wasn't ever to be learning. It wasn't really learning to not be broke again. It was just the goal was to just learn to be safe. Like do things that will allow me to be safe. So whether that was like building, investing, resting, like whatever that may be, and actually just live and enjoy my life. And not punish myself if things don't go the way I want it to go. Okay? So do you feel like so I'll end you with this. Have you ever felt like if you're getting better in an area, so it can be financially, um, Are you still scared for it to disappear and to go all the way? To go away, basically. Are you still scared in that aspect? Right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And then you work on it. But yeah, I just wanted to share my experience when I heard that term, post-traumatic broke syndrome. And just share it with you guys because maybe you can learn from it. And I will leave it here. And as always, you could always go in the comments if you ever want to do the Bill Your clarity call, where I'll help you in your next steps. Make help you get clear. It could be even around that if you feel stuck around that when it comes to money. We can talk about it. I put it in it'll be in the comments and it's also in the description. And if you ever want to connect with me, and it's $87 or something like that. You can always let me know. But have a rest of your day, and thank you for watching. And those who are watching the replay, thank you for watching as well. And feel free to put in the comments below, like, where you are right now financially, and, like, do you feel like it's going to despair? You're hilarious. All right, have a good day. Bye.